welcome to the ABA Alchemist YouTube channel. If you are new to our channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is going to be an overall review of the study guide that I have for sale on Etsy, and this is also available on the link in the description that you can visit later on. We will be going through the study guide, and this will be an audio. If you're like me, the busy mom, the full-time schedule, the hustle and bustle mother or parent, and you're pursuing your career in ABA, this is the channel for you. So we're going to dive right in. If you watch the intro, we do have the behavior bee. Whenever you see the behavior bee on a slide, that means you may want to take additional notes. You may want to pause the video, or maybe after the video is complete, you can come back, or you can go back to some of your other study tools and kind of go in depth with some of the concepts that the behavior bee is hanging around. We will go through each task list section by section. So for example, task list A has 5 sections. We're going to first go over the task list A, which is philosophical underpinning. This is a 6th edition review. There are some slight changes between the 5th edition and the 6th edition. I will do a video later on to draw a comparison of the two, but let's dive right into task list A, philosophical underpinning. So in this task list, our goals are to identify the goals of ABA as a science, the philosophy assumptions underlying the science of ABA, which is pretty much how does ABA work. And then we have behavior from the perspective of radical behaviorism, which is obviously a methodological, and then we have radical behaviorism, and then we're going to go over the branches of behavior analysts, and then finally at the end of task list A, we're going to be able to describe and define the dimensions of ABA. What makes the behavior ABA? So let's dive right in it to section task list A, part 1, where we are going to identify the goals of ABA as a science. So how do we determine goals, right? So we have ABA, applied behavioral analytics, is evidence-based applied science, mean that there is evidence behind what we're doing. All the interventions and practices that we're in place are based off of either studies that have been conducted in EAB, which is we'll dive into that as we go further on into the task list, but we are just applying it out in the field with our clients and manipulating the environment. Our goal is to use the principles derived from ABA in order to target socially significant behaviors. ABA focuses on accessing the environmental influence on the behavior by accessing, implementing the intervention, and making data-based decisions. You are going to see a lot of data all over this study guide, because that is what we derive our interventions from. That is what we use to know whether an intervention is working for our client, if it's not working, if changes need to be made. We don't just make guesses. We are using true facts when we are implementing it. It's not, oh, we're just doing this so he can relax. No, we are doing this because based on the data, there is an increase of the target behavior when this antecedent occurs, and because of this consequence, now there's an increase in behaviors. And as we go through the task list, we're going to go through the ABC data, the narrative data. We're going to go through all of that. Many people make the mistake thinking that we are there to change the client's behavior, but in reality, we are really there to manipulate the environment in order to replace those inappropriate behaviors and change the consequence. We'll go over the different functions of behavior, but just even neurotypical behaviors are either going to increase or decrease based off the consequence, right? If the attention is being delivered for an adverse behavior, a target behavior, then obviously the behavior is going to continue to occur, it's going to continue to increase, and we're there to manipulate the environment, whether the environment may be a person, it may be a particular setting, it may be maybe more than one person, it may be socially, not so much automatic, which we will get into that as well. But socially influenced behaviors are a lot easier to target. And then the main goal is for us to make sure that the behavior meets the social significance in that environment. What may be important in school environment may not be as important in the home environment. And the same goes for the community setting. Now we have the 3 levels of scientific understanding. So we have description, which is the first and the lowest level of scientific understanding. Facts that derive from events that have been observed. So though description is the lowest level of scientific understanding, it is important that the description of the behavior of interest is thoroughly described. In order for those that are on the case, such as your trainees, your caregivers, or RBTs, they're able to identify what those behaviors look like and how the data is collected, right? We don't expect caregivers and trainees that, maybe they're behavior assistants. We don't expect them to be able, they may not be able to manipulate the data, but at least they know how to collect the data, whether it's frequency, whether it's on an interval schedule. And the description is where they're going to get that information from. And then we have prediction, which is the second level of scientific understanding that is derived from the correlation or covariation between 2 events shown from repeat observations. There is no causation or functional relationship. So with predictions, we draw these correlations by collecting baseline, and we'll go more into that in task list B and C. But when we collect baseline, we're pretty much seeing where the client is in the behavior, what it's like without the implementation. Then we introduce an intervention, withdraw the intervention, go back to baseline, then put in the intervention again, and we're implementing the intervention repeatedly and measuring it so we can determine the functional relationship. And there we can draw our prediction and identify what intervention we're going to use. And we'll go over those procedures again in a later task list. And then we have control, which is the third and the highest level of scientific understanding. We aim to reach an ABA. And then it confirms our prediction. So the experimental demonstration and manipulation of events, independent variable, which is the interventions, whether they have an effect to change the dependent variable, which is the behavior. So we have not proven our prediction to be true until we have control. And then when we repeat the intervention and we realize that, say it's not a skill acquisitions, because skill acquisitions, we usually want them to increase. But we want them to target behavior to decrease, say that it's aggression, right? And based on our prediction and drawing baseline, we realized, okay, if we manipulate, we provide praise, say for example, the client engages in a tantrum every 4 minutes, and we realize that, okay, we can implement an antecedent intervention where before we get to the 4 minutes, we provide praise or attention to the client and kind of redirect them before the tantrum occurs, and we realize that that intervention works, then we have established control, right? And then we're going to keep implementing that intervention. Then we're going to generalize it, fade it, and we've mastered the control. And this is just a very subjective opinion, but though control is our highest level of scientific understanding, I believe that generalization is just as important across all stakeholders that are involved in the client's lives to ensure that there is maintenance with the new behaviors that we are teaching. So guys, that is task list A, part 1 of identifying goals of ABA as a science. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned as we will have part 2 of task list A.